the next theme, we're going to talk about circular economy. If you didn't heard about it, soon you will. For that, we have Gaëlle Le Gélard from MacArthur Foundation to explain to us more about this concept of circular economy, also their projects and actions that is developing too. So please welcome Gaëlle, all yours. Thank you so much to have you here.
Thank you very much. All right, so I'm really happy to be speaking after Elsa, actually, because food design is a big part of my work in a different way. And she ignited your creative brain, so I will ask you to continue using them. Let's imagine for a second. What if your food could build biodiversity? What if we used every part of the fruit, from the stem to the seeds? What if your food could improve the field it's been grown into? Unfortunately, it's not the case today. Today's food system is on a global level a take, make, waste system. And it's not just food, it's our entire economy that is linear. We take resources out of the ground, we make a product, often for quite a short use, and then we dispose it. It's a very wasteful system, and it depends on finite resources. It's usually polluting, damages the health of the ecosystem and nature. And food is a pretty iconic example of a linear industry. We extract vast amounts of finite resources to grow and make the food that we eat. And a tiny fraction that you can see, this tiny arrow that goes down, that's less than 2%, is being collected and treated in a valuable way. And as a result, we can see around the world our soil degrading. The world has roughly 60 harvests left. I mean, 60 more years of food before our soil quality is diminished to a point of no return. At the same time, we have nitrogen running off from mismanaged fertilizers and manure, and it's having terrible effects on the waterways. And on top of that, we let valuable food and valuable byproducts go to waste. So it's pretty clear that we need a fundamental redesign of the system. The problem is making tweaks to the current linear system is not enough. Intending to do a bit less harm is about trying to make it more efficient. So it turned this big, fat, linear arrow into pretty much a thinner arrow, which is good in itself, but still fundamentally linear. And it's simply not working for the long term. So what we need is a circular economy. And the circular economy is a system that is fit for the 21st century and beyond. Circular economy rests on three main principles. The first one is around waste and pollution being eliminated by design. The second one is that all materials are kept in the economy, maintaining their value and quality as much as possible. And the last one is where natural systems are regenerated rather than degraded. So we live it better than we found it. And this is what the Ellen MacArthur Foundation is all about. Everything we do is underpinned by those three principles. Everything we do is about accelerating the transition to a circular economy. And what we're doing now is we're igniting a food system transformation with the Food Initiative. In order to change our global system, we need a completely new approach. And where the entire value chain, all the actors in the system gather in one room and collaborate. And that's why we have gathered all those partners on our journey in the Food Initiative. It will take action from all of us in this call, from all the amazing speakers that you've heard before, and each and every one of you that is listening across the food system. But the good news, and there are a lot of good news, is there are examples already out there. Change is already underway, we can see it. And so what does great look like? We have an amazing snapshot thanks to a project called Connect the Dots. It's a program run by the municipality of São Paulo in Brazil. And this program supports farmers around the region to transition to agroecological farming practices. So that leads to the production of very high quality local food, which supports natural systems, builds soil health, promotes biodiversity, and helps to tackle climate change. What this program also does is that it transforms urban organic waste streams into organic fertilizers. So for example, since 2015, the pilot facility in Lapa has received 5 tons of organic waste daily, so every day, 5 tons, from all 26 markets within this borough. And the resulting fertilizer is very valuable and has been donated to the local farmers that we were talking about earlier. And finally, the program, through the municipality, provides 2 million meals a day to students in the school system. And for many vulnerable children, this is their main meal of the day. So we can really see with that example that if we connect together, if we connect all the different actors, we can achieve a lot more actually than if we were all working in isolation. So let's go back to the 3 ambitions of a circular food system. That this example is illustrated really well. So the first one is we need food that is grown in a way that improves the ecosystem and human health instead of damaging them. Second, we need to make sure that we are not wasting or losing food along the value chain. In circular economy, we don't see waste. We see inputs for new cycle. And for food is no different. Byproducts can be used to make new food products or be transformed into animal feed or compost, or as a last resort, bioenergy or new material. And that's where we're back to design that Elsa was talking about. And that's, I think, where a lot of you that are listening come in, is like any consumer product, food products are designed. And whether, by a chef in your favorite restaurant, or by a product developer in a big food company, or by Elsa herself. And for us at the foundation, food design is everything that happens between the moment where a raw ingredient is harvested to when it ends up on our plate. So everything that happens in between is food design. So for example, a chef creating a new recipe is food design. A nutritionist deciding on new menus for the school year, that's food design. Buyers choosing how they will source the ingredients, that's food design as well. All of those decisions, they influence what is possible to do further downstream, the byproducts that are generated, and at the same time, they incentivize suppliers upstream by creating demand. So for example, if the demand for food grown regeneratively increases, farmers will be incentivized to switch to those practices. So what does great look like here in the food design space? So an amazing restaurant is Nola. And it's a funny story because it's linked to one of the speakers, Matt, that spoke earlier. So after learning from him that European restaurants produce on average 70,000 kilograms of waste per year, 3 chefs, 3 friends, they decided to open a restaurant called Nola, which means zero in Finnish, because it's a zero waste restaurant. And already within 2 weeks of opening, they had reduced their waste by 80%. The ingredients are procured from local producers. There are no single-use packaging that enters the restaurant premises. There are no bins. The food waste is directly put into composting machines. And this soil material is returned to the suppliers. So we have a great loop. And their zero waste philosophy does not only apply to food, it also applies to their interiors, their glassware, the napkins. Everything has been really carefully selected because they're made from reused or recycled material. So for example, the chairs are made from wood offcuts from the exhibition industry. The cooking oil is delivered in 200-liter reusable containers. Another great example is something called Café Bueno. So coffee is actually one of the most consumed plants on Earth, and yet we have historically underutilized it. So Café Bueno is a company in Copenhagen, and they utilize coffee byproducts, such as spent coffee grounds that you get after you've made coffee, from hotels, offices, and they transform those coffee grounds into ingredients, so like oil for cosmetics, exfoliants, gluten-free flour, and all of these ingredients go then back into those hotels and offices through products. So what can you do as part of this food design stage? It doesn't have to be complicated. There are many resources you can start with, including our report that we launched last year. We also have aired an amazing webinar called the Big Food Workshop that you can still see on our website. And then there's also Advents London, who has published a restaurant guide for the circular economy. It's called Food That Doesn't Cost the Earth. It has a lot of very practical advice and recommendation. Another thing you can do is change your relationships. So we really believe, and I was really happy to see and to hear many speakers before me that emphasize this point, that change will come through relationships. If you are invested in your supplier's interest and they are invested in yours, you will quickly realize a wealth of opportunities that you can create together. And another thing, another advice is that, as I said earlier, waste doesn't exist in nature. So someone that I interviewed a couple of weeks ago told me a story. He was asking chefs, like, when does food become waste? And the answer was like, well, I guess when it reaches the bin. So he challenged them back, and he was like, so how can we make sure it never reaches the bin? And that's my question to you. How can you make sure food never reaches the bin? Because everything has value. Another great thing to start doing is thinking differently. Don't think I need this ingredient, but instead think I want this texture, I want this flavor, I want this color. A great example is Not.co. They've used an AI platform, and they call the algorithm Giuseppe, which I think is really funny. And they used it to create a recipe for a mayonnaise called Not Mayo, which tastes like mayonnaise, but replaces eggs with plant-based ingredients. So for example, this AI algorithm has found out that if you combine a broccoli with a goji, a mushroom, and a nut, that gives you the flavor of chocolate. So thinking differently. And lastly, I want to leave you with one thought from Mokadi Itswang, which is a fantastic South African chef. She's the executive chef at Locha in South Africa. And she gave us an advice during our Big Food Workshop that really, really stuck with me. And I wanted to share it with you. When asked how we all could promote biodiversity and use indigenous ingredients, she answered, ask your grandmother. Ask her what ingredients she cooked. And that's what I want to leave you with. Thank you very much.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias. Thank you very much.